Have you ever wondered how pro mixers get that in-your-face drum sound? Are you finding that your compressor is killing your track's transients? In this video, I'm going to show you a super simple technique that will solve problems like these and more, and get you mixing like a pro and making better home recordings in no time. Ready to get started? Someone hit record. Hi kids, my name is Merlin and I'd like to welcome you to Better Home Recordings. Today we're going to explore a simple yet super effective technique called parallel bus compression. At the end of this video, I'll have a Better Home Recording super tip for you that will elevate you to the parallel bus compression order of Merlin. So be sure to stick around for that excellent tip. Let's do this. What is parallel bus compression? Parallel processing is when you send a copy of a track's signal to another track that you can process separately. This gives you two tracks with identical outputs before you add any processing. What's cool about this is that you can now add effects to the parallel track while still keeping the original dry signal intact. This allows you to get very creative indeed while mixing. Like all things audio, using compression is always a compromise. Too little and your track won't pop the way you'd like it to in your mix. Too much and your track will sound flat and lifeless. Your track's transients, which give the track its life, will literally get lost in the mix. So how can we fix this? Enter parallel bus compression. With parallel bus compression, you basically mix in heavy compression on a copy of the signal running parallel to the original track. This will allow you to keep the life-giving transients of the original track and still be able to add the punch of the compression with the parallel track. This hybrid approach to compression gives you the best of both worlds, compressed and uncompressed at the same time. Let's take a closer look at this. With parallel bus compression, our goal is to have the original track retain as many transients as possible and yet give the track added punch and clarity in the mix. This means using little to no compression on the original track in order to preserve the transients. On the parallel track though, we want to get rid of as many transients as possible. This means setting the compressor on the parallel track to stun by using a super fast attack time with a fairly high ratio, I generally use 20:1, and a medium release time. This will get rid of the transients on the parallel track, but still provide the compression we need. Now that the transient levels on the original track have been preserved, and the parallel track heavily compressed, we can blend the two tracks back together. This gives us the added punch from the compression that we're looking for, with the original life-giving transients making the track shine. Let's take a listen to the effects of parallel bus compression on this drum track. Okay, here you can see we've got a drum track going, we've got our drum track, and we've got our drum compression track right next to it, and finally we've got a group that we're busing both channels to. We're using a solid state logic bus compressor here. You can see we're slamming the signal pretty good, about -12, -20 dB. We're pretty nailing it pretty hard. We're using a relatively moderate attack time of about 10 milliseconds and a ratio of 10:1, which is as high as we can get on this particular compressor, and actually a pretty quick release time. You'll see what that accomplishes here in just a second. And here's the track with the compressor in. Notice how the back end of the drum set kind of opens up there. There's back to the original. And listen to the reverb splash of the snare and the cymbals. Just quite a bit bigger sound. Now that's the actual compressed signal. This is what it sounds like. And back to the drums with the compression and the out. Back in. Here's it in the track. Out. Back in. out, back in. And there it is out, back in. So you can really tell the effect that it has on the drums. Much bigger, much punchier. Really nice sounds going on with that. Keep in mind, parallel bus compression is not just for drums. While being extremely useful for that in-your-face drum sound, parallel bus compression works great on a variety of track types. It's great for vocals, guitars, kick drum, or group of instruments that have transients you'd like to preserve, but that could also benefit from some added punch. One of my favorite uses for parallel bus compression is called rear bus compression. This technique originally came from super engineer Andrew Sheps. It involves busing every track in your mix, except the drums, to a parallel track, compressing that signal, and then blending it back into the original mix. This technique effectively wakes up your mix and takes it to a whole nother level. Take a listen to this. Okay, you can see we've got our track set up here, and down here we've got our rear bus track set up. We're using a Universal Audio 1176 on that track. And you can see that we're using a high compression ratio, 20:1. We've got a relatively quick attack time between 1 and 3 milliseconds. And a medium release time again, somewhere in the 3 to 10 millisecond range. Here's the rear bus in. Again, this is just the instruments that are being bussed to this track, not the drums. There it is out, back in. And this is what the compressed signal sounds like. Again, the compressed circuit itself. And you can blend this in to taste. There it's out. And back in. You can see we're running about 10 to 12 dB worth of compression. And there you go, that's rear bus compression. Pretty cool, right? That brings us to today's Better Home Recording super tip. If you plan to use automation on any of the tracks that you're using parallel bus compression on, you're going to need to take an additional step to maintain the integrity of your mix. Basically, if you automate your original track and you're sending to the parallel track via a post-fader send, the automation level changes will affect the amount of compression that is taking place on the parallel bus. This will essentially change the sound of the combined track, even if the changes are very small. Conversely, if you automate your original track and you're sending to the parallel track via a pre-fader send, the amount of compression taking place on the parallel track will not change, but the balance of the compressed and uncompressed signals will be affected by the automation level changes. To fix this, you need to take one more easy step. To start, change your send to the parallel track to pre-fader so as to maintain the amount of compression being added. It's important to not send your original and parallel tracks to the master left-right bus. Instead, simply create a group bus and route the outputs of both your original track and your parallel track to the inputs of this group. Route the output of this compressed group to the left-right bus. Now, you can automate the group channel to your heart's content and not affect the amount of compression or the track blend. Ta-da! I now award you with the Parallel Bus Compression Order of Merlin. Congratulations! I'm so glad you stopped by today. If you have any questions on anything discussed in this video or would like to suggest a subject for a future video, please leave it in a comment down below. I would love to hear from you. That's it for now, kids. Be sure to check out my other videos that you'll find useful for your home studio here. And please remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more fun and information. I would very much appreciate your continued support. I hope to see you again soon, and remember, the first rule of better home recordings is, there are no rules. Take care.